Hey guys, what's up? Week 314 or 414 is 414. I'm 100 episodes off. I just had some dental surgery, so there's a little numbing on this side. So if I'm looking real goofy or a little droopy, that's what's going on here. But Droopy Dave knows the show must go on. So 1971, first movie, Celluloid Dreams, their second release here after Case of the Bloody Iris. We have another kind of heavy hitter in the Giallo world here. And this is Short Night of the Glass Dolls, directorial debut of Aldo Lotto, who's pretty, you know what, he doesn't have the most horror films or Giallo films, but what he has is super, super quality. He went on to do Who Saw Her Die, another 1972 Giallo, great movie, and Night Train Murders in 1975, excellent movie. So Short Night of the Glass Dolls is also excellent. It stars John Sorrell, who's in stuff like, Eye of the Hurricane, a couple other ones. He's in one of the Umberto Lenzi, Carol Baker movies. See, John Sorrell was kind of like those actors, like those handsome French guys that were in a lot of European kind of films, like Luc Miranda or Alain Delon. All good actors. I mean, John Sorrell and Alain Delon were really good. Luc Miranda was not as good as those guys, but you get the point. So yeah, it also has Mario Adolph in it. Has some other big actors in here. A Bergman regular. And one of the actors I want to mention, I think it's Fabian Sovagovic. And I know him from a movie from 1981 called Rhythm of a Crime, which is a really underrated Eastern European kind of horror movie. It's less horror, more psychological kind of horror element. Great film. But Short Night of the Glass Dolls, it's kind of an odd kind of storytelling mechanism in the very beginning. John Sorrell is right on the slab. He's brought into the autopsy room, and the guy seeing him right away is a regular familiar face. We've seen him in a million movies. And they're talking about, he's dead. This guy's dead. They put him in there, and it's kind of the Tales from the Crypt episode, Abracadaver, right? Where he's alive and he's feeling everything and seeing it, but he can't move. So we're like, what is going on? Is he actually dead? And we're in this haunted world. And he starts to try to recollect what happened, how he got here. And the story is pretty wild. He is, a reporter, as all good fucking people in these movies are. Every kind of like Giallo. It's always like a job like that, right? Because they're nosy and they get in the business. And he's dating Barbara Bach, another big kind of European cult actress. And they're pretty, serious about it. Fiance, everything like that. And she ends up disappearing, and this is constantly flashing back between him on the autopsy slab, trying to think and stuff like that, which adds a real nice layer of horror to it. Trying to figure out what happened to her, where she disappeared, and he starts to unveil kind of a cult. That's kind of a theme that Aldo Lotto would do in a couple of his films, the kind of evil, kind of rich people who just kind of pull the strings. This also had the cult aspect, which is another Giallo from a year later in, All Colors of the Dark, which is a fantastic movie by Sergio Martino, or at least plot points are fantastic. It's not my favorite Martino, it's a good one though. But so that one's pretty interesting. It shares some elements there. But the 70s were really kind of very cultish. But this one starts off really kind of classy and a great mystery, and when it leads to that, it just kind of opens the doors to be really weird. I love Mario Adolph as well. Adorf. Sorry, I always mispronounce his name, from Fila Day. But he's also in Bird with the Crystal Plumage, directed by Dario Argento. But he's in a bunch of Fernando de Leo crime films. He's in, I know I'm going to forget this one, but it's a fantastic movie where he is a cop and he's with another partner, and they're trying to figure out if this guy is a spy or not. I just watched it for Radiance Films. That's the problem with watching so many great movies, you never remember. But so Short Night of the Glass Dolls. This is a great film. It looks fantastic in 4K. There's tons of great cinematography. The location is beautiful. It's actually shot, they want it to be Prague, but it's not. It's near there, so they made it look like it and everything like that. On the way it unfolds is beautiful. And Aldo Lotto, with his films, I've noticed that there's always something to say in the way they say it. He has these themes that keep bringing them up and repeating and things like that. And that's when you kind of notice a lot of great directors, right? Either the visual style or the themes or kind of a mixture of both. And Aldo Lotto definitely doesn't just seem like a lazy gun for hire. He seems like an auteur. believe it or not. He got his start, as assistant director on films, and he was a writer on films, and he worked a lot of different aspects of film. So overall, the release of the movie, as far as like the picture quality and stuff, looks fantastic. I know 88 Films has a 4K as well. This has a nice little hard box on there, and it has several discs in there. It's shot beautifully. It's edited beautifully. The story unfolds beautifully. Visually, it's great. Another great score by Ennio Morricone, who's pretty much the king of the Italian score, maybe besides Riz Ortolani. It's a personal favorite. I know Morricone's the best. But as far as the special features are concerned, there is a slew of them. We have original Italian and English opening credits, and we have English, Italian, and Grindhouse theatrical trailers. Mind you, this is in English and Italian. You can watch it in both. 7 featurettes with Aldo Lato, John Surreal, Ennio Doria, Mario Mora, Eda Della Osor, Dieter Glaser, and others. So there's a big hour and 41-minute kind of little making of documentary interviews with Aldo Lato and John Surreal on there. And then there's an individual kind of career retrospective with Aldo Lato that's about 30 minutes where he talks predominantly, he hits on the big 3 horror films that he kind of was famous for and talks about that with a little bit more focus on this. There's also the featurette on here that they don't list is a nice little kind of run through with Howard Berger talking about the movie in a nice little video essay, good informative deal. He's got a voice that I like. I enjoy his video essays. And then we have a commentary track with the director, Aldo Lato, commentary track by film critic Guido Hinkle, an isolated score, photo gallery, 64-page booklet. Another fantastic release by Celluloid Dreams. Their second one is stateside. I think this is a state company, United States company. But yeah. So great booklet here, tons of stuff. I'll show it all in the video, all in the thing, in 5-disc, and it has the Grindhouse version, which is like the American kind of paralyzed version. So if you guys wanted that, so you got the 4K, looking great, HDR, and then you have the Blu-ray. Then you have one with a bunch of features, and then of course you have this kind of Grindhouse version of it. So 5-disc, is it 5-disc? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-disc for Short Night of the Glass Dolls, amazing. I believe this was did Blue Underground put this out at one point, and then, or was it some other company, I think, back in the States, but it never had a Blu-ray here, so it's fantastic to finally see it get a 4K Blu-ray release of Short Night of the Glass Dolls. Great stuff. Okay, the next one here is from Eureka Films, and this is The Adventurers, directed by Ringo Lam, who did City on Fire. He also did Burning Paradise, which I covered on here, and Undeclared War. He has School on Fire, a bunch of movies. Ringo Lam's a pretty good, solid Hong Kong famous action director. This stars Andy Lau, pretty big name even to this day. Yeah, this is a pretty wild movie, 1995. Some big set pieces here. There's also some other familiar faces in here. David Chen, I think, is his last name. He's Shaw Brothers regulars in a lot of Chang-Chi movies, and he basically is the replacement for, Jimmy Wang Yu, and he's in a bunch of them. I covered him a slew of times. It took me a minute to recognize him in this movie because obviously time has passed, and I love seeing all the classic Shaw Brother actors pop up in these movies here. So we're basically 20 years prior, probably 1975 or so. And, our lead here, Andy Lau, is a young kid with his family. His mother and father and sister are brutally murdered by this kind of horrible guy. He gets a great look at him, and he kind of grows up, and he's taken in by like an uncle, a family friend, or possibly actual uncle. And he ends up joining the military and things like that, but he never lets go of the fact that he wants to get revenge on this guy for doing this horrible act to his family. His uncle also feels the same way, and David Chang. They both want to get their revenge. So he goes kind of AWOL, and he decides to do it when this guy who is the murderer is now like some kind of heavy kind of drug dealer, gun smuggler kind of guy, deal, whatever. He's kind of moved on up. He was a former CIA operative, so he's got a lot of connections. He's just a really big piece of shit. So Andy Lau tries to kill him. He ends up being helped earlier by basically the villain's mistress, and they kind of start to have a relationship and creates this really complicated love triangle. But the main henchman for our baddie here is the rapist from Red, Red to Kill. Which I know a lot is funny, listen to the commentary, and he says this guy's in hundreds of movies, and he doesn't really mention any, but for me it's immediate Red to Kill. And this guy's obviously more classy, the commentary guy. He knows his more sophisticated movies. I'm more in my Red to Kill Cat 3 trash movies. And I was like, hey, fuck, this guy looks so familiar, he's so mean looking. Also, there's a general in here that pops up later who's another villain, and it took me a while to recognize him. I actually had to look through the credits, and I couldn't believe it's him because he looks completely different. If anybody ever seen, Hello, Who Is It, or Daughters of Darkness, or Brother of Darkness. This guy is the #1 rapist in all these movies. He has the big gaps in his teeth. He is the main villain in all these kind of movies, and he's just really trashy. He's in this as kind of a mean, evil general in Cambodia. But essentially what happens is our Andy Lau kind of ends up trying to kidnap our gang leader's daughter in some weird kind of convoluted way, and they start a relationship, and now he's in this weird love triangle assassination attempt, but he ends up going to bigger things, and it gets really complicated and insane. The end fight scenes, the end action set pieces are great. There's trucks driving through villages, there's explosions, there's helicopters, there's planes. So this movie's big. It's big, it's crazy. Andy Lau is great. Good leading man, of course. The bad guys are solid. Yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. It kept me intrigued. The story unfolds well. And a lot of times when you get like somewhat convoluted and things like that, you start to lose interest. This one is absolutely not so much that. I enjoyed the entire movie. It's great stuff. As far as the special features are concerned, we had 3 audios on here. We had the original audio that's not restored. We have a 2K restoration, of course, and then we have a DTS and a 5.1 mix. I'm in a stereo and a 5.1 mix. And then we have the unrestored Cantonese and English subtitles. New audio commentary by film critic David West. He talks a lot about Ringo Lam, and this is the only time him and Andy Lau worked together. They did not get along on set very much. All that kind of information and things like that. Very interesting. The actors and all that. Two Adventures, new interview with Gary Bedson, editor-in-chief of Asian Cinema Journal. Also interesting. Kind of covers a lot of the same other stuff, and it's very enjoyable. That's when I listen to a lot of these things. You always mix up the information you get unless it's so fine detailed on one little thing. Previously unseen archival interview with writer producer Sandy Shaw. So theatrical trailer, collector's booklet featuring a new essay by Hong Kong cinema scholar Aaron Han Young Mong Nong Park. So yeah, 1995, Eureka. Good stuff. This one is not one of Ringo Lam's most popular films. It's not like the big on fire movies or anything like that, but this one's pretty good. Good stuff. All right, we're going to hop into 2 more Dr. Mabuse movies, and the next one up is The Testament of Dr. Mabuse. And yeah, this is, I guess, kind of a remake of the 1930s Fritz Lang directed movie, so the second one in the series of Mabuse movies. So the whole history and story of these Dr. Mabuse movies is absolutely wild. The commentary does a great job of talking about that. But let's talk about the terror of Dr. Mabuse. So essentially what we have here is kind of this gang that goes around. They're led by a secret mystery kind of guy. We know that Mabuse is going to be behind it one way or another. And there's kind of a quirky kind of fast-talking villain at the front of the gang. He's pretty funny. Even has a great line towards the end of the movie, towards the end of his life and stuff. That's really funny. But or at least playful. I'll say playful. But the group of criminals are kind of doing all these high elaborate kind of deals where they break in and stuff, and it's full of familiar faces. The villain from Willy Wonka's in here, and that's the one that I think that everybody that's kind of my age bracket will know right away. Wadsworth is in here as one of the goons, and I recognized him right away. Just he has a really unique look. The detective from the first The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse and Return of Mabuse is back, and this is kind of playing as like a prequel, so the timeline gets really fucking kind of confusing and everything like that. Now, although Mabuse was supposedly dead, the detective really believes it's Mabuse, and then we kind of get it tied in with this boxer who is down on his luck. He's just not very good. He's losing all the fights, so he ends up joining with his gang. So he's kind of like this sympathetic kind of character in here as well. And it also gets weirdly convoluted as well. Like there's with like other characters popping in and weird mechanical things like guns that fire backwards. Overall, the Terror of Mabuse, Dr. Mabuse, is fun. I think I prefer the next one in this set, but I do want to talk about the special features on here before I move along from this one. And I have to give like a standing ovation for the audio commentaries on here by David Collot. Now, David Collot is an incredibly interesting guy, and I can't remember how... I listened to both the commentaries a couple times. I don't remember how each one ends, which one goes to which one, when it comes to like the stuff that's not directly tied about the movie. But he talks a lot about the producer, Arthur Brauner, who had an incredibly interesting life growing up in Nazi Germany and escaping, and his entire family, besides him and his brother, died, and he saw these Mabuse movies from the 22 and the 30s one in theaters, and he had a love for Mabuse, so he went out and he decided to produce these later on, and it actually got Fritz Lang to come back and make the first one, and it's just a super interesting story, and it's told really wonderfully in the commentary. He also talks about having the thrill of the hunt for finding crazy different movies in these kind of crazy different places, and that was a thing, that was amazing. And here comes old man, get off my lawn, that's my thing too, nostalgia porn. That's what we all do, right? But it really was. It was kind of going into certain video stores or certain areas or all these weird kind of places that you were excited to go to because you didn't know what you were going to find there. You'd walk in, you'd find a stupid tape for $1, anything. The possibilities were endless. The days before the internet were wonderful, and I wish everybody got to experience them for a little time. I love the internet. I do. I also hate the internet, double-edged sword, but the days before it were really interesting time, right? But he talks a lot about that kind of stuff too. Talks about the history of it. Talks about how Dr. Mabuse got started, where he was inspired from the pulp novels of the 1900s. It is literally an excellent commentary, especially for me to listen to, because when I hear commentaries a lot about, horror films from the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, I know a lot of that information. I don't know everything, of course, nobody can, but I know a lot of the information, and being put in one nice little place is great. But when I'm hearing something about these Dr. Mabuse movies, and the amount of all the knowledge coming out from these commentaries was so immense, and I was just kind of like, my mouth was agape. When you're talking about a different kind of genre or something, or different, this is my first time with these Mabuse movies, and they're very enjoyable. Very easy to watch, man. They do kind of remind me a little bit of like Universal horror movies meets James Bond kind of style things, and they're just easily digestible. The commentaries, I can't tell you, are great. They're so wonderful, and they also have the introductions by Tim Lucas on here, and Creamiology, which is really fun, by David Carnes and Fiona Watson. Sorry, that. It's making my mispronunciation even worse with the dental surgery. But this is really cool too, because they talk about the history of creamy movies and stuff like that, and how creamy movies came from the Agatha Christie and stuff like that. And they're talking about all these kind of weird elements within the movies and the commentaries too. They're talking about, well, the jazz music's in here for this, and then like, oh shit, you don't realize that. And then even when I watched later day, like Jess Franco or something, I'm like, oh, this movie's riddled with jazz, like Venus from Furs or something like that. And I'm like, oh, probably because it's a carry-on to those older movies, even though Venus and Furs is not necessarily a jolly or anything. But you're like, oh, wow, it all, that trajectory of film, it's all interconnected and interesting. And the more you know, the more interesting it is. And then, unfortunately, the more you know, the less you know that you don't know, right? The less you know, because you're so aware of so much more. But yeah, Terror of Dr. Mabuse. Good stuff. Great release. Looked fantastic, too. And he even talks about a book that he published that was ripped off later on, and trying to get this one, I think, on DVD, or was it the last one, and stuff, and things fell through. But yeah, this one's good. Okay, the next one here is Dr. Mabuse versus Scotland Yard, and I actually probably had the most fun with this one in comparison to the some of the other ones. I thought this one was really good, and this one's pretty wild. It says it's shot in Britain, clearly not shot in Britain, but what it did have is a bunch of familiar faces, and especially faces of people that everybody knows. Klaus Kinski's in here, yeah. Klaus Kinski's in a Mabuse movie. Werner Peters is back. And it was worth the price of admission to see Werner Peters and Klaus Kinski in a car together. Werner Peters is wearing these sunglasses. That was really fun. But this one's a wild one, a wild story here. So there is a doctor who has developed a camera that can control people's minds, right? So Mabuse wants it, but this isn't really the Mabuse, because the last movie we kind of learned that Mabuse was under the care of a doctor, and the doctor maybe hypnotized him. Who's hypnotizing who's, but all this kind of confusing shit. And the end of this one kind of plays into that, where you're like, oh wow, he's got him the whole time, and it's a fun little twist on there. But basically, people start to do wild, weird things. The queen gives up a necklace, robberies, things like that. And Mabuse, the stand-in for Mabuse, I'll say that, is using these kind of goon guys that have had their face reconstructed and shit, and they're faking their deaths to get away with it. But that's not fooling our main guy here, and it's not fooling his mother. His mother's kind of like the main kind of driving force to him figuring out a bunch of stuff. She's the comic relief, but she's also really funny and intelligent. You'll see this kind of stuff pop up in Alfred Hitchcock movies with Frenzy, and I'm sure it predates that. Frenzy, the wife, saying, well, what if this is that? And she's like kind of goofy and silly, but also at the same time, she's actually solving the crime because she's smarter than our lead guy. But this one's fun. It's ridiculous. And there's people getting their minds completely swept up and taken off. There's a hangman that hangs himself publicly. I thought this one was great. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought there's plenty of action. I thought there's plenty of good character actors. This is plenty of comedy. Great mixture of everything that you would look for in a Mabuse movie. What do you dive into about this one? David Collot talks about the difference between the book and this, which is amazing, because you're like, well, Mabuse, they put more on him being more intelligent within the book, because he's using this mechanism, this powerful thing that's not as powerful in the movie as it is in the book, and he knows how to use it well, so it just makes the whole thing a a little bit scarier. Really great, excellent commentaries again. Very fun movies, and I'm looking forward to watching the last one in this set, and I'm going to have to track down the first two Mabuse movies, which I should have done before I started watching these ones, but that's just the way you want to dive into the new box sets right away. I know that Kino put out the one from 1922, and it's about a 5-hour long. It's Fritz Lang, of course, classic director. Also, they point out all this stuff, how M and Dr. Mabuse are like a shared universe, which is really cool and way ahead of its time. And people are always like, "Whoa, shared universe!" It's like, yeah, it goes way back further than that. I mean, even the Universal monsters were doing that. That's only in the 40s and 50s when they started doing that, though. But Mabuse is back here doing it in the fucking 60s too. So I mean, but back in the 20s when M and Mabuse were out. So that's really cool stuff. But yeah, great set so far. Cool stuff. I know they're putting out some more German stuff, and I'm not going to be that person that lies to you guys and says I've seen absolutely every movie. I watch hundreds of movies all the time. I watch 700, 800 movies a year. I watch a lot of horror movies. I watch a lot of B movies. Sometimes I miss some of the bigger titles. Sometimes I miss some of the peripheral, kind of the weird ones that are a little not horror, that kind of stuff. But there's tons of German horror films from the 50s and 60s that I completely missed out on. And it's really fun kind of seeing these come out and everything like that. It can be intimidating when you see 10 million creamy movies and you're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know which ones to go for. And they only have German Blu-rays and DVDs, and you're like, oh shit, Klaus Kinski's in 100 of these. Oh, he does go over the entire history of all those, Edgar Wallace and his son Edgar Wallace, and what was possibly considered all the Edgar Wallace. That stuff's interesting too. And he names all the different movies in German and in English. I was just like, so much good information. And I know I was like, talk about the movie a little bit more, but he does such a good job. I'd rather talk about the releases themselves, because hey, you guys have probably already seen the movies, or if you haven't, but you get a kind of gist of what you're getting in the package. Enjoyable, great set so far. I've watched the first 5. The next one is next week. Okay, the next one is from Radiance Film, and this is Japan Organized Crime Boss. This is another Keiji Fukasaku movie, who's done probably like 20 movies I've covered on the channel. I think he's one of Japan's best directors of all time, especially when it comes to Yakuza movies or crime films. So what we have here is a guy recently was released from prison. Right away, right when he's out of prison, he goes back to his old, kind of group, his crime syndicate, and he sees the crime boss, his boss, get mortally wounded. And on his deathbed, he says, I want you to take over this gang. You need to break from this kind of big business Yakuza kind of gang that I've sided with. It was a huge mistake. We need to get away from them. But all that kind of stuff like that. So he's really put in a hard place because of the lower gang that they were feuding with because of them joining this Dano, I think it's Dano, gang. He wants to retaliate otherwise. So Bunta Sugawara is in here as a small role. He's a big actor in a lot of the Battles Without Honor and Humanities and a bunch of Fukasaku movies, but he has a smaller role in this one. It's got a lot of familiar faces in here. I can't think of the actor's full name, but is it Waka Saga, whatever. He is in a ton of these movies. Big gambling boss. Lone Wolf and Cub. He plays one. He is one of my favorite actors in these movies. And every time he pops up, I say that, and I don't take the time to memorize his name, probably because I don't want to butcher it. But he's great. He's kind of this local kind of crime boss that they give. He's really crazy. Him and his guys are nuts. He's like a drug addict, and they give him this small territory, and they're basically using him as a proxy, kind of a proxy war deal. They're kind of like making these smaller gangs fight so they can come in and clear the whole area. But there's a lot of backstabbing and a lot of changing of whose allegiance you are to and all that kind of stuff like that. And it ends exactly how you would. Is he going to stay and just run away with newfound love, or is he going to kind of live the Yakuza life, the Yakuza way, and get some justice? So this one's really well done as well. It's going to be really hard for me to say anything negative about these 60s and 70s Yakuza movies or prison movies. It's totally, to me, it's totally my jam. It's got a lot of good actors in here. Also stars the real life Yakuza who is in the prison film from last week I covered that Radiance Films put out. This guy was a real-life Yakuza. He has a nice, interesting role in here where he's been wounded and he has one arm. And, there's a great scene that takes place kind of in a junkyard where he's running away from the bad guys, and a lot of shooting. Incredibly violent for 1969. Bloody, violent, just good stuff. Good Yakuza movie about honor among the Yakuza, whatever. And so many people are backstabbing and stuff. There's always these slimy characters you can't trust. But, as far as the special features are concerned, we have 4K transfer interview, archival interview with Keiji Fukasaku, new interview with Ito, Visual essay by Nathan Stewart. Little limited edition booklet with new writing by Stuart Galbraith the Fourth and newly translated archival writing. Another great release from Radiance Films. Radiance Films has done so many cool movies so far. A lot of Italian and a lot of Japanese movies. They have a couple other ones too, but it seems like their focus is kind of that. But yeah, a nice, great release. Here's my man here. This guy is a fucking amazing actor. I think his name is like Tomi Shire. I can't. I'm so bad with pronunciation on this stuff, especially with my mouth right here. But I would highly recommend Japan Organized Crime Boss. Good stuff. All right, guys, it's going to be relatively quick with this one. This is Death of a Unicorn. Pretty brand new movie. I caught it last week, and I made like such a dumb mistake last week when I was talking about it. I deleted the review, and I was like, I'll just do it this week. Like, I'm getting old. And watching yourself get old is scary. But it stars Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd. Also has Richard E. Grant in here, Will Poulter. So a good strong cast, at least on paper. I don't think Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd get to do very much in it. So Death of a Unicorn, I was like, this sounds fun. A24 killer unicorn movie. Why not? So I overall, I think it's okay. I think Richard E. Grant and Will Poulter and Leone, the actors, the kind of the three rich family members do the best job. I think they have the richest characters. I think some of the gore is fine. I think some of the CGI is pretty poor. And I think a lot of the jokes fall flat for me just because I think it plays it a little too safe. It plays it safer than you would expect for a movie called Death of a Unicorn. I kind of wanted more a balls out approach instead of something so safe. But essentially what we have here is Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega are kind of estranged, father and daughter because of the loss of a mother. And Paul Rudd has to go to this business meeting with this rich kind of, the owner of this company, and he's trying to get, in good graces because he's going to get a promotion. Richard Grant is actually dying. He's looking for someone to take over this thing, and he kind of has to prove himself to him. What happens on the way there, they hit a unicorn, and Paul Rudd kills it, and they go back to this house and realize that this unicorn is magical for reasons, and maybe there's more to the story. Don't want to spoil anything. That's kind of the rundown. Now we're going to get into kind of spoilers. So overall, I think it's okay. I think maybe we're checking out. Just play it by ear, I would say, if you're going to like this. But spoiler alert. So they kill the unicorn. And one of the gags I think most people would like, it's mean-spirited, and it just really fell flat. It felt too obvious to do it. As Paul Rudd starts beating the unicorn to death when Jenna Ortega's feeling it, trying to check if it's okay, and she gets a surge of power. But, of course, the unicorn has some magical proponents. The blood is cures, and Richard Grant and his family start to take more and more of the unicorn blood, grinding up the horn and sniffing it, and they become even crazier, and they're kind of facades of being these caring individuals that want to help poor people just kind of fall off, and they become the rich monsters that they actually are and that they actually always were. And it's funny when they always turn thing on everybody. Somebody will go, that's not good, and they're like, well, don't you want to do this? And it completely benefits them, but they act like it doesn't. That kind of shit. It's funny. And Richard Grant going from crippled guy to monster with gun, big game hunter is pretty funny stuff. Overall, I think it's alright, like I said. Will Poulter's really funny too. Good actor, of course, from Midsommar and some other things. Jenna Ortega, it's funny because everybody's like, oh, I should know her. She's in a bunch of new horror movies, and I really haven't seen her very much, it's like Shia LaBeouf. I've seen him in a couple movies. It's one of these people, at that time, everybody's like, oh, he's everywhere. I was like, I always one movie, and that's terrible. But it's just weird, some of the actors or actresses that you completely miss out on. Jenna Ortega's fine. It's just that the writing doesn't give her much to do. And I've never seen Paul Rudd be so unlikable, and it's to the point that unlikable things he's supposed to be. Yes, he's supposed to be. He's not going to have a redeeming quality at the very end of the fucking movie, but guess what? He lost me so about halfway through the movie. It's I don't want to see him anymore. Get rid of him. But he's still there, and he has the redeeming. He's kind of a shit character, honestly. He's just fuck it. I'm tired of that character. It's so cookie cutter. I did hear the director on a podcast, and he talks about how much mythology they actually looked for, the tapestries of the unicorn. So they did hard work. They did it very well and that kind of stuff. And that's interesting. That's cool. That's fun. But overall, it's not really for me. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's great. I think that I like the obviously big swings, although I just wish it was a bigger swing for, the plot description and the story. You're like, oh, this is going to be a big swing, but it's kind of just a jab. And the jab might land a little bit, but it's kind of a grazing jab for me, Just doesn't work that much. Death of a Unicorn. And we're getting those 1982 movies.
these things, then you just attack me right now. So some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
Son of a bitch, you moved the cemetery, but you left the bodies, didn't you? You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones! Why?
For a girl like you to come into my life, I've been waiting for a girl like you, the love that will survive. I've been waiting, someone new to make me feel alive. Yeah, waiting for a girl like you to come into my life.
You bitch! You call me a bitch!
What's in the basket?
How do we know she is alive?
Say, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to... Please, stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it!
First up is the classic from New World Pictures here, 1982. Forbidden World, 4K, that's right. This movie I've watched like 2 or 3 times. This is probably the 3rd time I've seen Forbidden World, aka Mutant. And they wanted to make this as a follow-up to Galaxy of Terror from 1981, which did really well, and Battle Beyond the Stars, which is another space thing. New World Pictures are doing a lot of space kind of things. Obviously, Star Wars was popular. Alien was popular. They're going to get in on it, too. So, Forbidden World, the director, what is this? Alan Horwartz, I think? Alan Holtzman. Sorry about that. I'm not too familiar with his work, honestly. But this movie, according to him in the commentary, Nathaniel Thompson in the commentary, good job here, he's talking to him, and he wanted to make this a comedy. And Roger Corman in the original version did not think it was funny. He hated when people laughed. He didn't get comedy and horror. So he cut all the comedy. So the original version's like 77 minutes, and then it's been put back into like 83 minutes or something like that in the director's cut. So the director's cut is better with the comedy. The first thing I noticed about this movie that, I've always I kind of shit on Forbidden World a couple times. But this time around, I really enjoyed it. And I guess realizing it's more purposely done a comedy, I was just kind of confused by the tone, I guess. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. But I always probably was comparing it to Galaxy of Terror. And it's just not Galaxy of Terror. Nothing bad or wrong with it. It's just not Galaxy of Terror. It's not the same movie, Dave. Stop comparing it. But the music is fucking fantastic. It's wild. It's weird. It's bonkers. Just really enjoyable score. Awesome score. Great score. One of my favorite scores of the year, actually. Jesse Vince in this, from Silent Running. believe he's in Silent Running, if I remember correctly. And he's in a slew of other movies, too. Jesse Vint's kind of isn't he in Pigs? He's just one of those actors that pops up here and there in a couple movies. Decent, solid actor. Kind of rugged in this one. And he's kind of, comes with his robot, and he's there for a distress call. And he goes to this lab, the scientific lab, and they're like kind of designing, I don't remember what they're mixing, like some sort of vegetable with a whole bunch of weird DNA and shit. And they're just mixing with animal DNA. And something has been created. It killed all the animals in the lab. It's kind of run amok, and it's really disgusting. Michael Bowen is on the ship. There's a couple other people that you'll recognize on here, I think, possibly character actor kind of style. I recognize, but they're not people that like with name recognition. It packs as much possible nudity as you can get into this movie, which is really great. It's funny sci-fi with a bunch of nudity and sex, which I thought was just a great Roger Corman movie, right? Kind of similar to Humanoids or Galaxy of Terror from the couple years previous and stuff like that. So it's like 82 minutes. It has a really fun score, has decent characters, has a cool, goofy monster that's growing and mutating, and nudity and nice lighting. It's just a fun movie. Cool special effects. Then Buchler. I think Buchler did the effects on this one, if I'm not mistaken. So, kind of a classic special effects guy, R.I.P., did a bunch of movies, worked on the Ghoulies movies and shit. So, watching Forbidden World this time around, it's fun. The way they kill the monster is pretty cool, too. It's fairly gory, it's very fast-paced, and it's enjoyable. It looks great in 4K, too, and it sounds great. The features on here, basically, you have both versions in Director's Cut and regular. You got the commentary with editor, director Alan Holtzman, with Nathaniel Thompson moderating, of course. They have Making a Forbidden World, featuring interviews with Alan Holtzman, special effects production designer Robert Sotek, actor Jesse Vint, composer Susan Justin, and then more. Interview with producer Roger Corman, and special effects artist John Carl Buchler. You gotta love that. So yeah, this is a fun movie. I'd recommend it. If you're looking for a space horror movie, look for further than Forbidden World. If you're looking for something a little bit more serious than that, look at Galaxy of Terror, although at the ending of Galaxy of Terror is incredibly hammy. I always argued with Dustin and Brandon Salkill. I always like Galaxy of Terror. They're always like Forbidden World's way better. There's this great scene that's edited. It has to be done in a comedic way, where it's like a sex scene, and then it's like cuts. You hear a saxophone, like you're like, oh, is that? And then it becomes like diegetic because the guy's playing it, and you're like, that's fucking awesome. But Forbidden World, fun stuff. Okay, the next one is more of a sci-fi movie. I'm gonna be really quick with it. This is Android, also a New World Pictures movies, 1982, starring Klaus Kinski, Don Upper, and actually there's a few criminals in this movie that pop up in the movie, and one of them is the Norwegian from The Thing. The guy shooting out of the helicopter. One of the Norwegians is in Android from 1982. So we had a busy year, I guess, in sci-fi. So yeah, this one feels a lot like Saturn III from 1980. Also feels like Silent Running with Bruce Dern. And this kind of has that vibe. So Klaus Kinski is a doctor. He's isolated. He has his android on here. And Don Upper. Don Upper is actually from Critters, the Critters movies. He kind of plays the kind of dullard that befriends the kids. You know, nobody believes him. He becomes a bounty hunter in the later films. But yeah, he's in here playing this android Max, and he kind of gets this distress call from these criminals that he doesn't know are escaped criminals. He lets them in. He immediately comes infatuated with the girl here. The two other guys are jerk-offs, assholes. Klaus Kinski's also completely infatuated with the female on the ship. Why wouldn't he be? It's Klaus fucking Kinski. He's a creepazoid for real, not the movie, but he's creepy as shit, as he should be. Kind of reminds me of his role in Creature, but not quite as dramatic as he is in Creature, because he's just an absolute pervert creature. But yeah, so obviously they both have some trouble, kind of some static between them, and we have also these other two kind of criminals plotting and all these things like that, and our android starts to do things he shouldn't do, you know, bad things to kind of save possibly this woman. It gets complicated when another android is introduced, and which leads to a great twist ending in this movie. Overall, Android is fun, sci-fi, kind of pulpy, good stuff. Really short, 77 minutes, so it doesn't wear out its welcome. I would recommend Android just as a one-time watch, you know, and it's not, you know, Kinski's fine in it. He's not great in it. Nobody's great in it. Nobody's horrible in it. Nothing spectacular about it, but the twist kind of makes it worth watching. That's Android. Okay, another one from 1982 is Jungle Virgin Force. That's right. Now, it sounds really like, oh, this is going to be a sleaze fest. This is an Indonesian kind of action horror adventure movie in the vein of a Italian cannibal movie, kind of like the Indonesian movie from 1980, Primitives, which they kind of did their own kind of deal. So this one has so much going on. It has everything in the, you know, like stick whatever, throw everything at the wall, whatever sticks. So kind of we have some anthropologists going there, and at the same time, years ago, you know, a scientist or whatever the hell got stranded out there, and his daughter went missing, and she's alive out there living with the tribe. But also we have some kind of treasure hunters that hear about, you know, they're going there and have the this map, and they're like, well, we want to find the treasure. So we got these villains chasing them, the people that are studying the kind of native people, and we got these people chasing them, and there's a crazy high, car chase scene, and that's pretty ridiculous. But what happens is everything you'd expect in an Indonesian kind of jungle adventure movie. There's magic fights, there's weird skulls. We have the really skinny gaunt guy who pops up in the Warrior film, the first Warrior, where he plays the kind of evil wizard guy that jumps in the tree. This guy's also in Satan's Slaves. He's a very familiar character actor in Indonesian films in this time frame. He's incredibly memorable how he looks. I don't think anybody would forget how this guy looks. He's incredibly skinny and gaunt. But he kind of plays like a tribe shaman, and he's a villain. But yeah, there's a really funny scene in here where somebody's getting a spell put on them by a shaman, like kind of this, and he's like, he's falling down dying, then he sits up, and then all of a sudden he's like, and his skull, I think it's his skull's in his head, he's like, and you're just like, I was like, what in the world's happening? It's way too fast paced. The picture quality is terrible. It's just complete nonsense and hard to follow because it's so ridiculous. But if you're looking for a breakneck speed jungle adventure movie that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, if you're just like, I've exhausted all my Italian cannibal movie jungle adventure movies, and I want something that's worse than Massacre in Dinosaur Valley, that's probably about as good as Primitives, but maybe worse picture quality, then maybe look towards Jungle Virgin Force. It was, I believe, released in one of those Tales of Voodoo DVDs, and I had 2 of those. Unfortunately, I did not have the Jungle Virgin Force DVD. I had the one with Primitives and a couple other ones, but there's like 4 or 5 of these that were released, and I had 2 of them. But yeah, I did not have this one, so I had to watch it in really poor quality, and I imagine the DVD out there is not much better quality. It's probably the same rip. But yeah, that's Jungle Virgin Force. It's up to you, man. It's 1982. It's ridiculous. And, the director, I don't think, did too many other horror movies. He did some other films, but nothing was ringing a bell when I looked it up. It's not like, Siswara Gunamaputra or something. Like, this guy directed like 25 movies I've seen. But no, this guy's kind of a little lesser than that. I think he did one other one I've seen. Okay, this next one here is pretty wild. It's a Pinku movie, and it's Hunting Schedule Corpse Assault. Yeah, that's right. And it's not in the Katsu erotic films. It's much dirtier and grittier and more guerrilla. I don't know. Like the Nakatsu movies, as nasty as the subject matters are, sometimes they have like a certain eroticism to them or a playfulness to them. I know people are like, that's even worse because they're like, yeah, well, it is what it is. But this movie has some similarities to what female hunting teacher or something. There's so many female teacher hunting, I think. There's so many of those like that have that name. But from the same year, it has pretty much the same ending. But this one has like this weird guerrilla thing where it's like point of view camera, and the beginning opens up right on the subway. And I watched with AI subtitles, and sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're horrible. And these 2 assholes, it reminds me of The Incident from '67, I think, with Tony Mustante, and I can't remember, is it Martin Sheen? And just in the very beginning, and these 2 assholes are like, just like start like grabbing this girl, and like everybody's watching, and nobody really does anything, and they rape her right in front of everybody. And I was just like, what the fuck? This is rough shit. And that probably plays into line with a lot of those Japanese, molester, groper train movies, which is a whole subgenre of, Japanese kind of erotica, horror, weird shit. But so they rape this woman, and their other friend seems a little, strange about it. He's nerdy. And later that night, there's 3 of them, and he tries to rape kind of the girl that's teaching him, like, or kind of like helping him with music, with like school and stuff and reporting. That's what it looks like. Tries to molest her. He can't do it. Maybe he comes in his pants or something. It's very odd. And he's kind of hung up on this girl, and he's very antisocial. But he starts hanging around these 2 goons, and these guys are just being derelict assholes, sitting on top of buildings and going around and raping and doing horrible shit. And there's a couple of pretty graphic rape scenes, one of which is in a field. And I've never seen a double penetration rape scene. No, I've never seen it, but now I have, thanks to Hunting Schedule Corpse Assault. So like I said, a lot of it's point of view, a lot of it's out in the open. It's none like set stuff. So it's like, this doesn't feel like the Nikatsu movies of the time. They feel more like the Hisayasu Sado movies, but before. Like it doesn't feel like Pig Chicken Suicide from like 81. So it's its own kind of element. I think the company was Shinya Toho. So it's not one of the big, 6 companies like Nakatsu or Toei or Toho or any of those, or Dai. It's a small company, and it's kind of maybe that early direct-to-video kind of shit happening. And it's not as polished as the Nakatsu movies, but it was impactful because probably it just seemed grittier and more guerrilla. But it ends exactly like the Female Teacher Hunting movie, where I hope I'm saying the right one, In the Rain, where this dorky person was obsessed with this person and loves them supposedly, right? And how do they show their love or affection or confusion or whatever? Obsession is more the real proper term. They have to rape them, right, to prove to their friends. It's so weird. And then do they feel better about it? No, they run away in the rain, hiding their tears, in the rain. It's such a weird thing. It's such a weird quality in these Japanese movies, and it's like these kind of youth gone crazy, weird fucking movies. Hong Kong had a lot of great youth gone wild movies, not quite like this. Not quite as just straight up exploitative. All those youth gone wilds do have exploitation elements, like some of them do, like The Happening and stuff, but I wouldn't call it just straight exploitation. But this one's good if you're into that kind of stuff, and be warned, there's some graphic rape scenes. So of course it's not full penetration or anything like that, because it is a Japanese movie, so you're never going to see quite everything. But yeah, I just was like, let's put this on for a few minutes, see if the AI subtitles work, see if I'm going to watch it, because there's so many movies from 82 that just don't have subtitles, and every once in a while I won't even watch them. It's like, this is too bad quality, I'm not going to watch it. And this one I was like, it somehow caught my attention, probably just because it just kind of hits you right there. It's short and it's in your face and it's crazy. But that is a Hunting Schedule, Corpse Assault. But there's alternate titles like Boku Gundam and stuff like that, which I'm not going to try to pronounce anymore. But yeah, check it out. It sounds like it's up your alley. Okay, now the Patreon pick is a rough one, guys. It is Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom, from the Criterion, of course, Pasolini movie. Iconic movie for many reasons. Now, I'm going to say this now. There's a million people out here who are probably talking about Salo in such highly intellectual ways, diving into the history of movie, diving into all the fascism and the Nazi nihilism, all this kind of shit that you could talk about Salo with. Now, I am not, a big fan of Pasolini. I haven't watched a bunch of his movies. I'm more into the genre cinema of Italy. So a lot of I've seen a couple Antonionis and maybe a Fellini or two, but Bertolucci. I'm more into the Dario, Bava, Fulci, Lotto, Diodato, and even I'll go into the, the Dalamini. Dalamano Dalamini movies. So, like, that's more my style. So, Salo. But it's also a movie that it doesn't just interest people that watch the Italian art film. It doesn't just interest people that watch the Italian genre film. It also interests people that watch the extreme horror film. And this was one of the big titles that always was on top of the list back in the day. What are the most extreme, depressing, disturbing movies ever made? Controversial. Salo, Cannibal Holocaust, Men Behind the Sun. It's all the same titles popping up and up and up. And this one earned its spot on the fucking list for a reason. Now, Pasolini had a lot of crazy politics. He was openly gay. He was a very bizarre character. He was murdered in weird, bizarre circumstances that may relate to a sexual partner he had, or maybe relate to politics or all sorts of things like that. It's like cloudy, the whole story. And that's another thing about this movie, right? It's like Cannibal Holocaust. The story behind the movie is just as interesting as the movie, if not more. And the idea of the movie being made in general is so baffling and crazy that you're just like invested in it. So Pasolini wanted to base this on an uncompleted work of Marquis de Sade. Marquis de Sade's a pretty interesting individual, obviously, of history, and partook in a lot of really graphic and degenerate sexual behavior. Some people, obviously probably worship the guy, but this is so far different from the Jess Franco Marquis de Sade movies, right? Where there's like a sense of eroticism and safety in those movies, even for the time they're probably crazy. But, this movie is fucking insane. It takes place in the 40s, 44, 45, towards the late stages of Italian fascism during World War II. And one of these four individuals decide, they call themselves the Duke, the Bishop, the Judge, and the Magistrate. Now these four guys decide that first we're going to grab our daughters and strip them down naked and force everybody to marry them, so it's this weird kind of bonding of us. We're going to get all these people, these studs and these other people to help us, collaborators, and then we're going to kidnap about 9 and 9 kids. And they don't, like, it's weird because, like, in the beginning there's one, he's like this, he's like, oh, I've been after this kid forever. His father's a judge like me. And it's like they like spotting these kids like they've been wanting them forever in like this weird pedophile way. It's really nasty shit. and they just proceed to have these old prostitutes that have had horrible things happen to them explain these erotic things that happen to them. And anytime they feel like having sexual exploits, they molest the kids, they beat the kids, and it's just a lot of nasty, disgusting things involving, fecal stuff, including shit eating and all sorts of nasty stuff. And in the very end, they just disembowel and rip the kids apart. The special effects at the end, they stand out now because they're not great. You see the seams, but just the subject matter is so nasty, it doesn't really stop you from being like, oh fuck, man, that's nasty. Salo is not the most disturbing movie I've ever seen. I've seen it before. It's been years, but it is the number one movie I'd probably not want people to walk in on me watching. You know what? Does that make sense to people? A bunch of naked young kids running around. And that's another thing that bothers me about Salo. I know people are like, well, it's about fascism. It's about this. It's a dark satire. It's comedy. And I can see some of the comedy in it sometimes, right? It's an absurdity, right? But you also see that Marquis de Sade shit in there. And it's just like, yeah, he's a very intelligent, illiterate guy. But I also see, like, the weird aspects of, like, him having sex with underage kids at points in his real life. And I know people are like, he was 17, the kid is played the end, but I don't know how young his sexual exploits go to. But the point is, it still rubs me the wrong way watching it. It makes me uncomfortable. And it's supposed to, but at the same time, I don't think it's like, Cannibal Holocaust 2 has stuff in it where, like, you shouldn't have done that. That seems, like, hypocritical or yada, whatever, But some movies you watch and you're like, that's the point, to get this message across. And then sometimes you watch movies and you're like, I think there's a certain enjoyment in here from the director. And I see that in Salo, so it makes me uncomfortable to watch it. What I will say is there's a lot of crazy performances in here. The guy who plays the Duke is in a bunch of movies. He's really fucking excellent in this movie. The guy who plays the Duke is terrifying. But he's also just so good in it. He's got the fucking amazing healthy head of hair too at his age. But he's just excellent in this movie. Really great performance. In fact, all the kind of older guys are really good in here. The Duke, the Bishop, the Magistrate, and the President. The President's got like the cross eyes, and he's just really creepy and awkward. But the ending where they're all watching it, like they're like these like royalty, watching the tortures out in the street, watching in the courtyard. It's just insane. It's, what's the funny thing about Salo is, like, I rate it. Do I love this movie? No. Is it super iconic? It's super memorable and super impactful. Yeah. And you're like, are you mixing up how good it is for that? And I was like, I do think it's incredibly well made too. So it's like, maybe I am. The score's great. It's super memorable. It's dark, and it's one of those ones that's like, I'm not going to grasp everything right away. And I think the more you watch Salo, the more you'll probably take away from it. But at the same time, you feel kind of dirty watching it, And I'm a guy who's a massive fan of Cannibal Holocaust, and maybe a lot of people feel that way about Holocaust, and I don't blame them. There's so many movies, and I'm not going to sit there and point people's fingers at, like, you have to love this movie. No. It's not. Some movies I understand why people don't like. Sometimes people say it's a bad movie. And it's not a bad movie. It's just not for you. There's a lot, but there's some shitty movies too. Let's be honest. But Salo, man, you have to see it. I don't know how to explain it otherwise. You have to see the movie. Maybe the director could hide behind it's about fascism, which it is about fascism, but it's also about sometimes your own sexual pleasures, I think. Unfortunately, but it also is like these high class pieces of shit torturing other children of high class people. So it's weird. It's not as simple. It's a little bit more nuanced in a lot of ways. It's not just a simple eat the rich feeding on the poor story here. It's a fascist story. It's a story about the collapse of fascism and how crazy they'll get, and also adds that element of Marquis de Sade in there. It's an interesting movie. Criterion put it out for a reason. Not saying that everything Criterion puts out is genius, but it has some sort of cultural significance for sure. Hands down. But has Salo Yesterday and Today, a 33-minute documentary featuring interviews director Pier Pablo Pasolini, actor filmmaker John Claude Batet, Pasolini friend Nidato Davoli, Fade to Black, a 23-minute documentary featuring directors Budalucci, Catherine Berlat, and John Mayberry, as well as scholar David Forgatz. The End of Salo, a 40-minute documentary for the film's production. Video interviews with set designer Dante Ferretti and director, film scholar John Pierre Gornan. Optional English dubbed soundtrack. Theatrical trailer. A booklet featuring essays by Neil Bartlett, Naomi Green, Sam Rhodey, Roberto Chesney, and Gary Indiana. And excerpts from Gideon Bachman's on-set diary. So, an insane movie. Definitely worth watching. And don't be like, just watch it because you're into the extreme stuff. I feel like that's a weird way to like this movie. Like, and then when he cuts the tongue off or fries the dick, there's a lot of fake dicks in here too. A lot of sex, a lot of shit eating. So if you don't want to watch any homosexual activities or torture of people or rapes or dick burning or tongue cutting or eyeball popping, don't watch it. It's a pretty depressing, crazy, weird movie. It's not a feel-good movie at all. But that's Salo 100, or it's called Salo, or 120 Days of Sodom. I don't think they torture for 120 days. I don't know. I don't think so. That would be a long movie. All right, let's get these questions, comments, and concerns. Audio Love. What? Larry Hagman is none other than the legendary J.R. Ewing from Dallas. He also starred in I Dream of Jeannie in the 60s and 70s. Listen. I know, I told you guys. I remember watching I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched and stuff like that, but Dallas was not a show that reran a lot. And I would watch, what was that, TV Land or something like that, like Gilligan's Island. Watched a lot of that, but here's what it is. I don't give a shit about TV now. And so I'm not going to go back and watch old TV. And Dallas, I feel like the show was like you had to be there kind of moment. Does that make any sense to anybody? So Dallas was a show that doesn't, like, reruns don't work like sitcom television does. But Dallas was long gone before I was a kid or before it was on TV even, or reruns. So I understand. Larry Hagman. It's the guy from Beware the Blob. Sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know. I think I do remember my Dream of Jeannie once you say that. This comment smells of death. You're right thinking that A Better Tomorrow was Chow Yun-fat's breakthrough role. In fact, before the film, he was considered box office poison within the Hong Kong film industry. He had been a successful TV actor, but none of his films had met with much success. When it became known that John Woo was going to cast him in A Better Tomorrow, several industry people even contacted John Woo to warn him against casting Chow. Looking back, it's crazy to think that one of cinema's most charismatic actors could have been considered a box office poison. I get why so many people see homoerotic element in films like Better Tomorrow, but I think that's more of a case of people applying a Western outlook to different cultural ways of depicting male bonding. As you probably noticed from all the Hong Kong films that you've been reviewing over the last couple of years, mainstream Hong Kong cinema tends to go big and broad with how it depicts emotions and what kind of intense male relationships is just their way of depicting the idea of brotherhood. John Woo was channeling the films of the mentor Chang-Chi when he made his heroic bloodshed films, hence the casting of a Tai Lung. If A Better Tomorrow had been made years earlier, it would have been Tai Lung and David Chang's getting all handsy with each other. Thanks for the great show. Yeah, I do see it in Chang-Chi, especially like the one where like the ending with the brothers in the military and they're all like doing the jumpings and stuff. I do, but I think it's more prevalent in the 80s films in general, just how they were made. And it's not just American movies. Like I said, I'm not just Hong Kong movies. American movies like Top Gun and stuff. It's just all in there. I just think the style of 80s films and the bros kind of end stuff always has that weird kind of thing to it. And it's funny. I enjoy it. It's cool. It's not like I'm like offended by it. And I'm not like, I don't think they're actually homosexual characters. Not that it would fucking matter. But it's just worth noting, right? Because a lot of people probably watch that, or they always get the kind of like people that love action movies, like whatever would be like so testosterone filled, but then they're like, "What? It's not gay. It's not gay, bro. They're just bros." But it is what it is. But no, Better Tomorrow was fucking awesome. I loved it. But thanks for the info, Saint 3188. I have only seen Rumpelstiltskin out of all these reviews. I remember running at my local store, and it was silly but fun. Exactly, silly but fun. The Nick Will from Belgium. Golly gee, I do remember seeing the trailer for Rumpelstiltskin playing on the little TV set that stood on the corner of my neighborhood video store close to 30 years ago. Damn, time goes away from us, doesn't it? It sure does. I might finally check it out, though. I wager that Robert Carlyle's version of that twisted little imp is superior, even if it was on a hokey Disney show. Villainous or not, I'm digging your beard, sir. You're braiding it, or it gets long enough, right? I don't think about my beard or my mustache whenever I feel like it. I just, boom, gone. And I'm not braiding shit. Questions. What's your favorite fairy tale fantasy horror movie? Fairy tale or fantasy horror movie? Does Nightbreed count as a fantasy horror movie? I'll go with that one. But not really a fairy tale. L'Amour is a fairy tale. Del Toro. Let's go Del Toro. Pan's Labyrinth's a great one. That's off the top of my head, though. Which fairy tale really creeped you out as a youngin'? For me, it was either The Goblin Rat or The Wrath of Captain Bones. Both were spooky as hell. Yikes. I can't really think of any. One that did was a cartoon, and it was like, who is awake and who is asleep? The literalist one is awake, which was an old, weird Eastern European cartoon, which is kind of like a Hansel and Gretel story. Scared the shit out of me. That one was. And I should have covered that for 1980 just to bring it up. I love that one. I had made a big mistake. Just how sleazy is Humanoids from the Deep. Pretty sleazy. It was made by a female director who wanted not to have any of that stuff in there, but then they went ahead, Barbara Peters, and they went ahead and reshot a bunch of rape scenes inserted in there. So basically you get a really smart kind of eco horror movie about mutants mutant fishmen and racist kind of guys going against the Native American and Vic Morrow, but then you add in a bunch of sleazy fishman rape. So it's just like it's the best of both worlds in the horror movie world, right? I guess you would say at the time, for the time. Till next week, Hell or High Water. Okay, Collectitus. I prefer the first three replicants over Rumpelstiltskin due to Warwick Davis' amazing performance. Rumpelstiltskin is shot more professionally, though. I would agree with 1 and 3 are way better than Rumpelstiltskin, but 2 I think is crumb bum. But that's just me. To each their own. Kentucky Kentuckinator, thanks for a nice comment. I appreciate it. No problem, man. Hope you feel better. Like I said, nothing's permanent. Way Up Dude gives me a thumbs up. Thank you. Door Kitty Films. Larry Hagman was the star of the TV show Dallas. A Better Tomorrow. Wish they kept these John Woo movies buried treasures for the diggers. I think John Woo's too good to bury. Everybody should see John Woo. They should play John Woo in schools. Forget teaching these kids anything. They need to be learning John Woo, how to fucking go down the stair set like that's the fucking staircase with guns. That's what I would be teaching my kids. That's probably why I don't have kids. But Angel Mapper, oh, that's crazy. Just watched Carpathians today. The part where the painting sings when he stabs it got me. It's a fun movie, man. And the set's so cool, and all the little things they made for it are great. Ken Coakley, I remember when I first heard of A Better Tomorrow. I saw the French poster at a Hong Kong cinema marathon that I was at. There was a small company that specialized in Hong Kong cinema posters and prints, and they had the French poster displayed. The upper half showed Chow Yun Fat, lighting his cigarettes that was a misspelling, with an American $100 bill. The bottom half showed Chow shooting at presumably Ali's thug during the film's climax. I was dying to see the film after seeing the poster. A friend of mine from Hong Kong told me how great it was. Wish he had told me that it wasn't an action-packed companion to Hardboiled, but a Chinese melodrama. The film came out in America video cassette a few months after the marathon, so I rented it. Chow lit the cigarette during the opening credits. When they showed the cigarette being lit, I was led to believe that the film would be a rags to riches gangster film like the Palma Scarface remake. It doesn't impress me at first, but it grew on me. This was the film that made Chow Yun-fat an action star. He was a TV actor who co-starred in a show about gangsters in Shanghai in the 30s that caught John Woo's eye. Before that, he was a talk show host. The Hong Kong film industry was specialized back then. Stephen Chow did children's television and dramas before he became a comedy star. This film also started the traditional Chow Yun-fat doing something really cool in the John Woo movie. In this one, he kept pulling guns out of the planters in the tea house. There was a reference to that in Just Heroes. David Chang's teenage assistant on his fishing boat was obsessed with Better Tomorrow, so he hid guns in flower pots for Chang. The film was co-directed by John Woo, and Stephen Chow played a bodyguard for the original boss. Woo directed the 1990 film Bullet in the Head, which is considered a prequel to Better Tomorrow. It even has the whiskey drinking scene that Chow told Wasteland about early in the film. There was also the 1989 film A Better Tomorrow 3 that starred Chow Yun-fat and Anita Mu. Choi Hart directed it, and John Woo wasn't involved at all. In 2016, Woo produced a Korean remake of A Better Tomorrow. I had the DVD. It wasn't bad. Thank you. Alex Powers. Dave, you should review the 1979 Japanese crime film Vengeance is Mine. I think I have that movie. I have it somewhere here. But, yeah. Well, I'm going to show you my Wasteland haul, but I'm going to do it in the video here. But I'm going to show you these shirts first. Wasteland was fucking spectacular. I didn't get any footage, but I had a blast just Saturday. Laughed really hard. Carly and Cage. Fred had a great time. Everybody's awesome. But here's some shirts from Paul Bear Press. The Wolfman. This one's for Steve Rzinski, if you remember. Looks like it's almost time for the Wolfman. There we go. I got another shirt here. Dawn of the Dead. The best movie ever made. It's an awesome shirt here. These are comfortable too. The Paul Bear Press shirts are the only shirts I really like of horror shirts because, like, as much as on them, they're not uncomfortable here. But just fucking awesome, rad. And then I got some shorts. They're not booty shorts though. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I got some running shorts here. City of the Living Dead. I can run in Fulci style. Great stuff. And the rest is going to be shown on the camera. So yeah. All right, let's do a couple not from Wasteland real quick. So we have Thirst, a 4K here. Powerhouse Films Indicator, man. Love these 4Ks. They're doing good prices when you do the buy two, get one when Target has their sale. But yeah, Australian film. Never seen it in 1979. Probably the fourth fucking time I bought that thing now. And then we have Café Flesh. Oop, bumped the camera. Café Flesh from Mondo Macabre. This is the 4K. Really cool stuff here. Look forward to watching that in 4K. And then we have a couple from Severin. In My Skin 4K here. This movie I've always heard about, always wanted to watch. French film, had a DVD, but now I'm going to watch it in style. Hear great things about it, actually. Never heard a bad thing about it. Never heard much about it, honestly. Sounds a little underrated from my understanding. Then we have House of Psychotic Women, Rarities Collection, Volume 2. I love this. What do we got in here? Butterfly Kiss, Morgana, The Savage Eye, and The Glass Ceiling. I love these box sets they do, like these All Haunts box sets, or these what is the other? They're kind of gothic box set. I love that stuff. So big fan of that kind of stuff. Then we got my Wasteland haul here. Hit up the TerraVision. Out There, Halloween Mega Tape. Looking exciting to watch this. Chris La Martina, sequel to WNUF, a Halloween special. So, I love the first one, man. And I've been meaning to buy this one forever. But finally got that Blu-ray, that regular Blu-ray release. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. Little downtime here, moving some stuff, because I don't want to stop once I start. Next up is an old Kung Fu Master, TerraVision again. Looks fun. Looks silly. Next up, we got Game of Killers, another TerraVision. Then we got this from Culture Shock, Assault of the Party Nerds. I think it's 1 and 2. 1 and 2. These look ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen these movies, actually, but it's a double feature. Linnea Quigley, that's right. Looks like some kind of crappy late 80s, early 90s, softcore kind of silly stuff. Then we got Hardware, 4K from Umbrella. I picked this up from the Diabolic Table. Richard Stanley. Awesome movie. Always loved Hardware. Really great stuff. Really cool. Then we got Crackcoon, starring my friend Carly. Picked this up from Jesse Flux. So yeah, looks fun, looks ridiculous. Brad Twigg directed this one, so why not? Then we got Electric Dragon 8000 Volt. I've had this DVD for years, so why not grab this one too? Looks fun, heard good things. We got Sex and Fury. Supposed to be an absolute classic. I've never seen this one with Christina Lindbergh. Had a DVD, but now I have a Blu-ray, so why not? Then last, we got a DVD. I'm not going to show you the back here. This is Slave Dolls Red Rooms. Slave Dolls 2. Yeah, this is Goblin O'Reilly movie. So I'm not showing you the back. It's pretty filthy. We're going to leave it there. Then we have some books here. I couldn't pass it up. I never buy it when they have the sale, but when I saw Virus, Hell of the Living Dead 600-page novelization of the classic Bruno Mattei, Claudia Fragasso movie, oh my god, this is insane. 600 pages. Trixie followed the trio of suit and tie guys into the hotel. Dude, this is 600 pages of fucking Hell of the Living Dead. That looks like Class of Nukem High guy up there. Is that the poster from Class of Nukem High? I feel like it is. And then this book, which I'm super happy to grab, the new essential guide to Hong Kong movies. I bought this from Ryan Smith's table. It's cool shit here. Yeah, I need this. I'm trying to learn, guys. I love the Hong Kong movies, but I sound like a fucking idiot when I talk about them. I'm trying to get better. It's not like the stuff that's embedded in my head for 20 years. You know, maybe in 20 years I'll know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to Hong Kong movies. But then I'll be talking about some other weird, like, category of movies, and I'll be completely out of my element. But yeah, that's the update. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Come to Wasteland in October. It's a fucking blast. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one.